Sorry, I would have been on a few minutes earlier, but you're looking at something over here on the side on a different computer, and you ever had anybody who's reopened a ticket that has been closed for, I don't know, a few years now, and then you're like, I don't even know why you did that. Let me see. When did this when did this get closed? Let's see. Oh, she closed it in 2020. Oh, see, that's the problem. That's where that person messed up at. Okay, so the last feedback on this ticket was from 2019, which predates even my arrival at this organization, and so yeah. Anyway, I'm Brian. It's breaking security podcast, education podcast, and yeah, we are in Tuesday right now, like deep into Tuesday. It's about hump day, and I am gobsmacked a bit about things. It's almost. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I look forward to that one tomorrow. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to put this out on the audio podcast, so I'm doing it somewhat more, I don't know, professionally or whatever. Anyway, so how's everybody doing? If you are interested in watching me talk on a stream, but I've actually gotten some data that suggests that, like, younger crowds, like the Gen Z folks, are listening to audio podcasts again. So I'm trying to make an effort to bring the audio format back into vogue. We went away from it for a little while we learned how to stream video and what have you. And the audio podcast isn't much different. I just need to download the audio from YouTube, hack off a few bits, and upload it to Libsyn for RSS feeds. So yeah, hope everyone's doing okay. Hope your week has gone well. I do need to change the moderator message, so our Discord link will probably change tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. We have a Discord, we have a Slack. You can reach us on LinkedIn mostly now. We're not on Twitter or Bluesky or whatever they call it. And so yeah, I have been following along with some of the latest vulnerabilities that are out there, and had found a GitHub full of IOCs, indicators of compromise, from Unit 42. Which is Palo Alto's threat intelligence team. And they have stuff that goes all the way back to, goes back to 2020. So Emotet infections with CACBot is one of the first ones they have there in August of 2020. And so I will post that link. There we go. And there are markdown files, and so they're formatted in a specific way, which is great. So they have the same format: author references, original references, which would include references being the original one would be like a LinkedIn post, or maybe there was a tweet on x.com, which was Twitter. And then other original references would be like NVD's NIST. There might be a blog post and analyzing certain bits of the vulnerability. So the one I'm looking at today is the latest Tomcat vulnerability that came out, and it is 2025-24-813, which if you're interested, it is something called path equivalence, and it is file.name leading to remote code exec or information disclosure or malicious content added to uploaded files via write-enabled default servlet in Apache Tomcat. Apache Tomcat is the gift that keeps on giving for hackers and bad guys everywhere, because one, it's an Oracle product, so it's it's not an Oracle product. It is a Java web server, but it's just riddled with bugs. I mean, it just has a ton of issues all the time. I mean, this one affects version 11, M1 through 11.02. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so, anything from, version 9, 10, and 11. And it is a 9.8 critical issue. And let me see. A malicious actor was able to view security-sensitive files and or inject content into those files. Rights enabled for the default servlet, disabled by default. So there are some configuration issues that need to occur. And if you want to, own up your friendly neighborhood, local, Tomcat server, and I will transition out. There we go. There we go. Move that over. There we go. Cool. So there's some default configurations that need to be changed for this to actually occur. But it says support for partial put enabled by default. So some things that are disabled by default or enabled by default cause you to have issues, right? And so this was NIST's link to that. And where is the techniques? No, that's not it. Oh, I clicked on the link and that's what happened. Okay, so yeah, there's analysis from scrapco.de. They said on 10 March 2025, ASF, so Apache Software Foundation, Security Foundation. It's a quick and dirty analysis explaining the parts of the picture that are not in the advisory or can't be deduced trivially. So, hello, IT professional. Wonder if there's a way to feed those IOCs into SecurityOnion. I'll be deploying SecurityOnion for the first time over here this weekend, and feeding it IOCs would be great if possible. Thanks for the link. Sure. Yeah, I don't know how easy it is. Usually, damn it. That's what I get. Okay, so the one thing I will tell you is kind of annoying is when you click on links in GitHub pages, it will automatically take you in that tab to those sites. I don't think these are ingestible into SecurityOnion in that way. My guess is SecurityOnion requires a JSON file or something like that. I didn't see anything in particular that would help you. There's an XML file in it, but it's a proof of concept. Like, this is the default servlet set to false. So you see the configuration parameters and what have you in there. Editing session persistence. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see if there's any kind of, I'm sure online you could find like an IOC JSON file for CVE. And it was, what was the number again here? 2025 24.8.13. 2025 24.8.13. 2025 24.8.13. So CVE record formats in JSON format. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how you would get those ingested into, how you would get those ingested into SecurityOnion. There's threat intel feeds all the time, and that's my guess is you would want to, what is this? Oh, here you go. Here's a JSON file for something called vulnrichment. Vulnrichment? Interesting. These are all JSON files for all of the CVEs. That is interesting. I'm not sure where they're getting these from, but vulnrichment, a repo to conduct vulnerability enrichment. Oh, the CISA Vulnrichment project is the public repository of CISA's enrichment of public CVE records through CISA's ADP, Authorized Data Publisher Container. In this phase of the project, CISA is also assessing new and recent CVEs and adding SSVC decision points. Okay. Some higher risk CVEs will also receive enrichment of CWE and or CVSS data points where available. Okay, so there is so these are parsable. I'm not sure what you're going to do with them in Security Onion, but here's a link that will take you to a bunch of JSON files that you can use to poke around inside of, so 2025, 24.8.13, right? 24.8.13. Scrolly. Now, I wouldn't take these for face value. I'm not exactly sure if they're actionable or not, but they have information in them that will allow you to do various bits with them. That's not the right one, but 24.8.13. Oh, that's right. Copy paste. There we go. I'm going to have to keep a track of these links that I'm putting up in here because I need to publish these to the audio podcast as well. So GitHub, Palo Alto Networks, Vuln Enrichment, I think is what they call it. There we go. Vuln Enrichment. There you go. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yep. Well, I didn't expect to find the vuln enrichment stuff, so there you go. That's nice. Let me see. Yes. But yeah, so the exploit, they use Java chains to create a specially crafted session file and send it to a temporarily vulnerable web server running Apache Tomcat at wiresharkworkshop.online. Below is the example of the Python script used for the purpose. Malicious session file is named gopan.session but can be changed to any name. Okay, so I don't know a lot about Python, but I have been learning it for the past 51 days. So we're importing packages, requests, base64, import OS. So there's a target IP, which is Wireshark Workshop online, port 8080. Output file path is decoded_chain.bin. Okay. Put headers, F target, gopan session. So target IP is, I'm just going to put the URL in there with that name. Content range, bytes 0 through 500. Okay, so I mean that's fairly, that's fairly easy. There might be a gopan file here somewhere. Let me see. Java chains, huh? Put URL. There you go. But yeah, so Unit 42's got some great stuff in there. If you're not creating these for your environment, you might be able to grab those. As of the 18th, yesterday, March 18th, added some APC related IOC stuff. So they're currently tracking activity from a group they've designated TGR UNK0044, which we associate high confidence to APT36, known as Blind Eagle. Oh, it's a South American threat actor, noted in 2018. Following reports of APC36 campaigns in November and December 2024, we found more recent campaigns in March 2025. Recent campaigns follow the same methods outlined by Checkpoint earlier this month. Oh, and what did they do? Let's go check that out. Let's see, copy. Hey, AxeRoot, welcome. We're looking at threat actors and reading up on something. Okay, Blind Eagle and Justice for All is the blog post name. You can follow along here. Looks like it's a nice AI created eagle for Checkpoint software. We'll copy that one in there. Series of ongoing campaigns targeting Colombian institutions and government entities since November 2024. Okay. 2020, so the CVE that they're using is 2024-43451, exposes a user's NTLM v2 hash, which can allow an attacker to authenticate as a user via pass the hash or relay attacks. Oh, pass the hash is good stuff, okay. This vulnerability can be triggered by right-clicking, deleting, and dragging the file, or dragging the file. Wow, okay, that's easy peasy, I guess. While the Blind Eagle malicious file does not exploit this vulnerability, it triggers a WebDAV request in the same uncommon ways, notifying the attacker the file was downloaded. Finally, when the user clicks on the file, it downloads the next stage payload via another WebDAV request and executes the malware. Microsoft patched this vulnerability in 2024. Just 6 days later, Blind Eagle included this URL variant in its attack arsenal and campaigns. I think that's kind of telling. So it took, they patched the vulnerability on November 12th. The idea is, you patch your stuff when Patch Tuesday happens, but if it doesn't, Blind Eagle took at least 6 days to figure out what patches were new in the Patch Tuesday cluster in November 12th of 2024, and added a URL variant that would target, not patching your systems. And because they're targeting Colombian institutions and government entities, which sometimes take their sweet time patching things, that it might have been useful. They said 1,600 victims. Okay, so it was very effective in getting those getting into the Colombian judicial institutions and other government or private organizations with high infection rates. So. This infection rate is significant considering Blind Eagle's targeted APT approach. Malware is often delivered using legitimate file sharing platforms such as Google Drive and Dropbox. Okay, so it's not like you're going anyplace nefarious. However, in recent campaigns, Blind Eagle's also distributed through Bitbucket and GitHub. Well, I can see that. I've seen several folks using GitHub or Bitbucket as like their own personal file storage systems, because it's easy to save those files somewhere, and it's a trusted link, right? It doesn't look odd. I mean, Google Drive's link looks kind of janky. GitHub's is a bit more shorter and more useful in that case. Group utilizes malware and tools which are well known within underground communities. A trend that continues with recent discoveries. To protect its malware, it leverages a Packer as a service HeartCrypt, which employs a .NET RAT, or remote access Trojan. It appears to be a variant of PureCryptor. The final stage is Remcos RAT. Oh, okay. I don't know if you remember months ago when I was trying to do malware analysis and setting up a sandbox, one of the malware kits that I was playing with on my VMs was Remcos RAT. So even, it may be some variant thereof, but it is still a legitimate remote access Trojan to be used, making connections out. The only downside to not having a Windows box now is the ease at which I can set up a malware sandbox to analyze malware, because a lot of VMs don't work in Mac OS, Silicon anyway. One of the things I found out when I went to renew my SANS certifications, they give you the VMs for all of the course material, but you can't run them on the box. Even with something like Parallels or whatever, you're going to take a performance hit, because it has to make those changes between Intel-based VMs and your ARM-based processor on your MacBook. Blind Eagle's been suspected to originate from South America, which is a big place. It could be Brazil, it could be Argentina, it could be Colombia itself. Operation Fail revealed phishing campaigns in which the group impersonated Colombian banks. Wow. Okay, 8,000 people or 8,000 entries of person identifying information. The campaigns were highly successful. Okay. Damn. So this is a good write-up by Checkpoint on all of the URL payloads, what they did to get in there. URLs were from an IP address /pdp.nacs.gov.ua, and it's an exe file called certificate activate. Okay. And that would have the initial bits in there that would start the whole process. So fun. Okay. Single click on the file, all Windows versions, deleting the file. Delete. Oh, so yeah, and triggering uncommon ways. A single right click on the file. So if you just need to right click on the file, maybe you try and you right click on it and go to properties, but it has something going on with it that will automatically run the application. Trying to delete the file also tends to activate it. So these are things you would typically do if you wanted to find out about the file, or, oh, I didn't download this, I want to go ahead and copy it to the trash can. So the actions are actually causing, the things that you would do to get rid of the file in the first place. Even by seasoned veterans like myself, is like, ew, I don't need this file. I'm going to go and move it over to my trash can, or I'm going to right click and delete. Doesn't, causes it to light off. It triggers it in an odd way. So that's, instead of double clicking on it, double clicking would actually be the more common method by which of doing it. But yeah. I've never seen anything like that where right-clicking on it would actually activate the system. I wonder why a bad guy would make it so that the right-click would trigger it otherwise. While this variant does not exploit the vulnerability, it exhibits unusual behavior by communicating with the server without requiring manual interaction. However, for the .url file to download the next stage payload, the user must manually click it, which triggers the WebDAV request over port 80. Okay. Unpatched vulnerable Windows 7. Okay. So they're using Windows 7 to activate the files. I wonder what happens when, because I don't know, anybody who's watching right now, when you're analyzing malware, you're using probably a throwaway VM or something like that. How is... And I'm just making this kind of connection right now, but it's what happens when your systems go away, when your Windows 10 systems, or the idea is that things like some functionality on Windows is no longer going to work. If you have, I think we've seen where they said, well, we're going to deactivate things like Office, which we actually installed Office on the Windows 10 box that we were running. So if you can't run Windows on that box, if you can't do certain things, like they could further hamstring it by disabling the internet browser, Edge won't run on the box. So you'd either have to install Firefox or something to do that, but they could continue to hamstring it, like maybe you can't install software. Or something like that. I'm just wondering how's this going to affect people who analyze malware for a living? What are you going to do? Are you going to have to buy a license of Windows 11 and run it on a Windows only box? Anyway, just thinking out loud there. Did I move my VS Code over? I guess I did. There we go. Move that back over. Yeah, so interesting article there. They also, so in the Unit 42, they also have other IOCs like observed IP addresses and TCP ports that are being used. And so IT professional, the one thing I would say about Security Onion is the IOCs that they have in here, I don't know how old they are, but they're going to catch some C2, but they're not going to catch all of them. The shared SSH key could change potentially. So, some of these may be old. Some of the hashes would be probably still okay. I would put those in there. But, it doesn't take much to regenerate and create new hashes for the variants or the things that are happening. SHA-256 hashes from the EXEs. This will catch some variants, but there's probably already other variants out there. C2 servers. So there's some good stuff in here. I don't know what format you need to put that in Security Onion, but if you had a way to parse this out or to download it in a more friendly way, you could definitely do that. Download the raw file. It's an MD file, so I think it comes down as a, let me see. Oh, okay. It comes down as a text file, but you could probably save it as a, oh no, it's a text file, but you could probably get it a MD markdown file. Yeah, some of these other ones come in as markdown files, depending on, I guess, who wrote it and what have you. So maybe the ones in, no, they have them. They have write-ups in text and markdown. So over 10,000 domains registered for a smishing, impersonation, toll, and package delivery services. You know what? I saw this. This one affected me. I actually got a text message the other day for somebody telling me that I had a toll on my phone. So a threat actor leveraging the same domain pattern registered 10,000 domains for various SMS, phishing, smishing scams. The root domain all begins with com dash. Okay. Since the root domain begins with com dash next to a subdomain, the full domain might trick potential victims into doing casual inspection. The domain names include pages impersonating toll services and package delivery services in 10 U.S. states and 1 Canadian province. Ontario. Okay, well, Ontario's, where a lot of people live in Canada, so it makes sense. California, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Virginia. It entices users to reveal personal or financial information, including credit or debit card information. I think I deleted the text message for that. Let's see. Where is it? No. Yeah, I think I deleted that one. That's a shame. But yeah, so to bypass this, they ask users to reply with a Y and reopen the text. Such interaction allows the iMessage, so it affects iMessage users as well to enable links in the smishing texts. And then there's a link to Bleeping Computer talking about it. Yeah, they'll have a link to that in there. Let me see. Copy. I'll put that in the chat here for everybody. Blink. Here we go. Yeah, our staff was unable to deliver your package on time. Yeah, please pay the toll on January 6, 2025 to avoid, oh, it was further back than that. Okay. Where is it? Oh, yeah. The one I got was a DHL Express package, which didn't happen, right? Yeah, staff was unable to deliver your package on time because the address was incomplete. Please go to USPS.com -- and then some janky bit. It was a DHL address, but this one says USPS, but same thing, right? DHL or .com - whatever. While neither of these lures is new, so yeah, none of these phishing lures are new, we noticed smishing texts and others asking people to reply to Y to enable the link. Please reply Y, exit the text, and reopen so that it will, set up the URL and disable this phishing protection. Yeah. If you receive a message with links are disabled or from an unknown sender asking you to reply, you are strongly advised not to do so. Well, yes, 100%. But if you're reading this already, maybe you've already clicked on that, or maybe people don't realize the Bleeping Computer had already reported on that, and so you might have already clicked on it, and ruined your day. But hopefully that's not the case. Yeah, so yeah, the Bleeping Computer's talking about the Tomcat, Apache Tomcat, RCE. Yeah. Following the conditions we're following. Yeah, so there's this one, it says it's a 9.8, but there's a lot of things that need to happen for it to actually occur, like sensitive uploads in a subdirectory of a public upload directory. The attacker knows the names of the security sensitive files being uploaded. They're uploaded using a partial put. Partial put is enabled, which is enabled by default. So if you've disabled that, you may actually have some protections in there. Writes enabled for default servlet, which is set to disabled by default. If there's some other, this is where, knowing the configuration of your Tomcat is going to be helpful. If you know what your configuration management or your infrastructure folks or your whoever sets up your Tomcat instances, if there's a reason for those to be enabled, then you might have more concern to patch. Wallarm warns that the bigger issue highlighted in this case isn't the exploitation activity itself, but the potential for more RCE vulnerabilities arising from partial put handling in Tomcat. So if you can disable that, great. So I don't know what partial put is about. Let me go and do a search on why you might do a partial put. Maybe that's like a resumption, like for large. Let me see. Tomcat. Yeah, dead simple. What is? Well, I guess if you handle Tomcat, you know what a partial put is, but it sounds to me like it's one of those things where you might do a, let me see if they explain it here. Attacker starts by sending a put request to upload a session, writes and session files. They say it's important according to the Apache Foundation, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay, so according to the register, they're saying that there's actually given the prerequisites for Apache Tomcat installation to be vulnerable to this vulnerability, Tomcat project is of the view that the vast majority of Tomcat installations will not be affected. Tomcat does not include any form of telemetry, so we have no way to determine how many users are running any particular version of Tomcat, nor what configuration settings they're using. So, if it's enabled by default, you have to probably, so there's 5 different conditions that have to be met. If any one of those is not done, then you can probably consider yourself in a good shape. But if you, maybe it's a good time to go through and do some spring cleaning, clean out your configuration files for these kinds of things. Yeah, the reg has better write-ups on this stuff sometimes. And there we go. Anyway, so you got some IOCs, Unit 42's GitHub, which I didn't know existed until I pulled that up. Quite a few write-ups in there. And they have it for all kinds of stuff. So like here's async rat, IOC. So you can actually probably go back through and go, oh, you can actually, if you wanted to do some trending analysis, or you wanted to, you can look for everything with async rat in it, or Bazaar Loader. Looks like Bazaar Loader and TrickBot. You can see things as they evolve. So you can go back to 2020 and find the first Bazaar, the first Emotet, or and see how they changed over time. So looks like Emotet's fairly regular in here. So there's an iced tea infection with Cobalt Strike, IOCs for iced tea infection. So yeah. I was reading up on, where was that? There was a analysis of LinkedIn recruitment phishing. So there's a lot of people who are out of work, which makes them ripe for scams and things. And I'm on Reddit. I do a lot of Redditing. Reddit or Redditor, yeah. And you'll go to Reddit's like r/scam or r remote work, which is a Reddit for people talking and complaining about their companies, telling them they have to go back into work or what have you. But there'll be some where people will be like, hey, I just, got this email from this company and they said, hey, you might be a good fit for the job, which is really great because, I'm really struggling and I'm, about to get kicked out of my house, or, I'm not going to be able to make food, find food and rent this month. And, they said, all I have to do is send them, $20 so that they will send me my software, or, I saw one the other day. Person was really excited about a new job, and they wanted to ask if it was weird for the company to be asking them to pay for the software and then they'll be reimbursed later. The problem was, and when you get to this point, you're like, okay, maybe. They were like, oh, you can't buy the software you have to buy the software with cryptocurrency. And when I read that, I was like, who in their right mind doesn't know that that's a scam? That is not real. Let me see if I can find the actual article. Let me click off of that for a second. I think I can go back through my because I posted that and I was like, how do you not know that this isn't fake? They're wanting you to use not real money to do that. And it's a powerful motivator, not having a job. I can completely understand why they would do this. Let me see, where is it? Scroll down here. Good old games. Descent, yeah, Descent's a good game. Let's see. Dropping new cash. I may have a problem. I may be on Reddit a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of those scams out there. Anyway, so I was looking at the analysis of LinkedIn recruitment phishing, and they said that phishing incidents targeting blockchain engineers, in this case, they're talking about this, but it could be anything. You've got people who are, just leaving U.S. government work because of the efficiency processes that are happening. And you've got a lot of folks that are, not going to have a retirement because they were in the government service for, so many freaking years. And, they don't know what's going to happen there. Right. There it is. So here's I knew if I waited long enough, I'd find it. So somebody had said, hey, I've been offered a remote accounting job. Everything is excellent, from the contract to the benefits. Everything was proper and official. The research I did on the company shows it is legitimate. That should have been the first strike right there. Now they're asking me to purchase software and provided me with a link to it, but the software requires payment in either crypto or Razor Gold, no other payment method. Software is OneDataSoft and is $99. I would appreciate any help. By the way, they said they will reimburse me the cost of the software and pay the first week's salary in advance. That should have been the other red flag. Will pay the first week's salary in advance after the first day of work. That there's a lot wrong here with this, and this is in the remote work bit. Yeah, so I looked them up. They're legit, but they want me to pay for and download software you can't buy with real money. There's a lot of folks that I don't know why they. I don't know why they don't think about that kind of stuff, because it is. You would think it's an easy scam, but apparently people are getting scammed for that. And they're thinking, well, I'm going to have a nice job. Okay, yeah, it does sound a little weird. No company will ever, and if you're watching this and you're not a security person, no company. Wait. Let me make sure that I'm in. No company will ever, no legitimate company will ever make you pay for software yourself ahead of your actual work. They will not ever, ever make you pay for shipping and handling of the computer or software materials that you're going to use in your job. No company will ever do that, especially a remote company. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but there it is. Maybe I should make a clip of that and post it up so that when somebody puts this out again, I can come back and go, watch my 5-second video explaining what a scam is and what a scam isn't. A remote work company will never make you pay fake money for software and then promise to reimburse you, and will never pay you in advance for work that you have yet to do. It sounds too good to be true. Because it is. And so, yeah, it's just unfortunate that there are scams out there that are doing that. So, but yeah, so according to Bruno's description, someone claimed to be a project representative reached out to him proactively and sent him a lengthy project introduction. So, I'm not sure why these are so damn small, but the message primarily focused on a job opportunity for blockchain-based SoFi game and staking smart contract platforms. There are red flags here, but the problem is with most social engineering activities, they're just, I don't want to say they're just plausible enough that people will believe them, or they want to believe it because they don't think that they would ever get scammed. And I am quick to tell people, you give me the right carrot and I will click on that link in that email. You know, everybody can get hit with those carrots. You know, if you have been out of a job for 3 months and all of a sudden somebody with a blockchain-based company is like, yes, please do this. And it's like, maybe it's like, oh, you know, go buy the software here, and you know you're going to have to use, you know, fake money to do it. And you're like, well, they're a blockchain company. They're dealing with cryptocurrency. Why wouldn't they have, you know, why wouldn't they send me a link to some software that I have to buy without using real money? Even a crypto company is going to pay you with real money, unless you elect to not do so. Like if you want to be paid completely in Bitcoin or fucking, you know, insert coin here. Sure, but you're still going to have to convert that to real money to actually, you know, eat and pay rent and stuff. So they go through the whole thing, seeking developers to join the project, backend and smart, have already been hired, whatever. Here's the, hey, seeking developers to join the project. We already got people hired and we're just, making sure you want to get involved. Now, at some point, I'm assuming that they're going to be like, you need to make a decision now. You need to do this now, because that's, do you want to be left behind? That kind of thing. This functionality is described. No third-party modules are found, so it doesn't seem to be an attack by a malicious NPM. Let's continue the analysis. When we look at server.js, oh wait, my bad, sorry. There we go. Server.js, if we're not careful, we might stop at line 47, and at first glance, nothing seems suspicious. Let me see. So they've got something down here that looks like it might be different. So there's some additional code bits here. There's a small horizontal bar which indicates something is hidden on the right. Let's scroll over and take a look. So the code is over on the far side, off the screen of where you might see it. So you have to scroll over to get to the really ugly code. Hey, Walt, how you doing? So if you want to see the code, and it looks like they might have obscured it on purpose, but the code, because programming ignores white space, all that const stuff is off on its own over on the far right side. So you just keep scrolling down thinking you're not going to see anything. There's a malicious payload. What does it do? Let's take a look at the code. Code is encoded in base 64. When running npm start, everything seems to function normally. So what's the purpose of the payload? They found its obfuscation techniques, making decryption troublesome. Instead, we used a hook method to extract the C2 link. capturing some IP addresses that are malicious in nature. So, hey, Walt, we're talking about scams and scammy things that scammy companies are doing, trying to hire people and scamming people who are already out of a job maybe, or who are not as gainfully employed as it could be, to get bad things happen to them. So there's an NPL Trojan for privilege persistence. Yeah, so here's a Python file that you can go through and so wait, does it say if, what is it, OT is the platform? Okay, so it looks like it says if the operating system is Darwin, automatically exit. So it will only affect Windows boxes? That's interesting. Yeah. If OT is Windows, subprocess popen, Z, E, or PT, creation flag, subprocess, create no Windows subprocess, create new process group. So yeah, it looks like it says if it's Windows, if Windows pops up in the string somewhere saying it's a Windows box, it's going to open a process and do all this evil shit. But if it's a Darwin system, just exit, right? And then there's a paydecrypt.py. So there's string decodes, UTF-8, and then CP1252. So there's some additional bits here. Wow. So what they're doing is they're creating persistence. They're going to find a way to steal browser data, plug in wallet data, and saved account credentials. So if you are using a browser like Firefox or something, they have the JavaScript that will allow them to pull your session cookies, your anything, any credit cards you've saved in the wallet of your browser, which is why it's not good to store or save that in your wallet on your browser, or any account credentials. So if you've saved any kind of accounts inside of your browser, then you should probably figure out how to get rid of those. Or if you're worried about this kind of thing, yeah, so default profile, file names, config files, app data. Yeah, so it's very Windows-centric stuff, local Google Chrome, local Microsoft Edge. So if you're using Brave or Opera, if you're the one person out there still using Opera, Brave, Chrome, Edge, Firefox. I don't see Firefox in here. Interesting. Or even your crypto wallets. So if you have crypto wallets stored in your browser, that could be bad as well. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Electrum. Yeah, that's bad. So once the victim executes code, the payload will collect all of your system and environmental data, send an HTTP request to a remote server to fetch additional data or valid payloads, do a callback to the C2, repeatedly perform this activity at intervals, sending heartbeat packets. Hey, I'm still here. Hey, I'm still here. Persistence, right? Persistence. We suspect these accounts belong to the same group of attackers and will not conduct further analysis. Okay, so you might also want to block these accounts in your enterprise if somebody is downloading these things. Yes, be suspicious of job offers or freelance opportunities that require downloading or running code from platforms like GitHub. Man, that is difficult. So this is the mitigation recommendations. They say they often distribute malicious files through Telegram, Discord. Oh, the other one they had about scams was somebody was like, oh, the company wants me to join their Telegram and download the files inside of the Telegram instance. And we're like, yeah, no, that's bad. Companies are not going to use Telegram in that respect, to, set you up or whatever, so be vigilant about files received via Telegram, Discord, or similar platforms. Now, I know companies that do use Discord for work, whether it be internally or otherwise. So, but they're not going to, I would say, it's not going to happen immediately. You're going to have an HR, you're going to have something sent to you like a laptop or something. And, freelancers, I can understand maybe that's going to be a little difficult. The only thing I would say is if you're going to do freelance stuff, you really need to invest in a second computer. And that would be the one that's like, I don't know. Freelance is going to be difficult because it's like, if you're bouncing between companies or maybe you're doing two jobs on, you're going to run into instances where you're going to need a clean environment, or you're going to be sharing or data from two different companies, or, previous contracts is going to be loaded on your computer. So you want to keep an eye out on that kind of, you want to have a clean environment when you're working, and you don't want to cross-pollinate those organizations' data. You're going to have Mama Kitty. Psst, don't be ugly.
He's keeping her from getting in the door.
I know. Enabling MFA where you can. Being a freelancer, I'm sure, if you've done freelance work, the whole keeping the environment clean is going to be one of those things you want to look at and make sure that you're doing correctly. Especially if you're handling code that is sensitive in nature, like, somebody's business secrets to a startup or something like that. Let's see. SlowMist is they're a blockchain security firm. So SlowMist is apparently a legitimate company. Take that as it will. I don't know any of these folks here. We offer anti-money laundering, security monitoring, crypto hack archives, firewall, smart contract firewall. Okay, great. They have partnerships with Akamai and other legitimate companies. Bitdefender and Akamai are the only ones that I recognize here. So remain vigilant about it as disable automatic downloads and manually scan files before opening them. God, it sounds good, but I don't know if I could. I don't know if a company could be hiring freelancers like that. If you're hiring freelancers in that way, you have to have in your risk model the idea that sorry about that. If you're hiring freelancers, you got to know that you're probably working with people who are not security professionals, and their environment is probably polluted as shit, and they're only using one computer for everything, including whatever they're doing for gaming and whatever. They have a really nice computer, kind of like my MacBook here, that is doing everything, right? And including their work and their play. So you have to take that on board when you're hiring people, I think, as well. And I've turned this from hey, here's what you need to worry about when you're a freelancer going to work at companies. But if you're working for a company that's hiring freelancers, you also have to take in the risk of, hey, I've got people who don't know how to spell security. And they're just worried about, that contract or, getting those things done. So, enterprise, establish an incident response mechanism for phishing attacks, combining technical defenses with user awareness strategies, monitor code repos for leaks of sensitive info, deploy email security gateway to block malicious attachments, conduct regular phishing attack simulation exercises, train employees. Okay, great. Some of those things are okay. Phishing attack simulation exercises, sure. You can spend all the money you want on phishing attack simulation exercises at a startup. I don't have a lot of trust in that, but you spend your money, whatever checks your box, whatever makes you feel good. I'm not feeling a lot of love from or effectiveness of phishing attack simulation exercises to train employees. if they worked, we wouldn't have a phishing problem or a smishing problem, or people going to r/remote work and asking, hey, is this a legit company? I don't even know how far the OP got into that before they thought, hey, maybe this is a scam. I should go report this on Reddit or ask on Reddit if this is a scam or not. The fact that they thought that they should probably ask somebody on the Reddit remote work, we should have given them pause. But hopefully they did all that before they said, hey, I'm going to go and download, this software for 5 Bitcoin or whatever, how much ever Bitcoin is now, like, 0.00005 Bitcoin. But yeah. I found this a couple days ago. This was published on the 11th. Technique Analysis and Modeling. Somebody had been going through, and I don't know if I can view it or not. I've already viewed it once, so as I start scrolling down, it may put me behind a paywall. They created a framework for keeping networks safe through threat detection, establishing an overall strategy, and explaining how they can shift the odds in their favor with sub-technique focused decisions. And so they start your model by adding things you already know, which is kind of good, right? When you're creating a threat model, you may not understand everything that's happening there, or you may, especially if you're a consultant coming in, you're going to ask questions, and the people you're asking questions of may have certain information, but then be like, oh no, I need to go talk to, Jenny over in information or, security infrastructure or what have you. You're going to build out a picture as you do threat modeling for, it could be any number of things, scope creation for pen testing. You might, there we go. And so they talk about various ways, things that happen, right? Creating remote registry key operations for these things, but this works for any threat model, right? You're going to have gaps in your threat model. You're going to have, oh yeah, we send a file from here to here, but what you don't know is what's going on in the middle. Is there any kind of controls? Is there a firewall? Is there any kind of security controls in place, or is this file literally going to be going from point A to point B over a network share or an SSH connection or whatever? Those are the kinds of things you need to highlight when you're doing your threat models. This is for a modifier create system process flowchart. This is way deeper than you would get for, say, a pen test or whatever. But there's a, they go through and they're talking about here, you create remote registry key, and then you're going to use a sysmon 12 with an Windows event code of 4663 process services exe, and it's going to, shows you your data flow and what's going to happen in a legitimate way. So let me see. Yeah, distinct paths for the models, creating registry key, calling the create service WRPC call with a TCP connection with a named pipe. You're going to document your results. This is all for detection engineers, right? So if you're, the idea is you need to figure out what's not right. What's you have noise, you have what's normal, what's not normal. Ideally, when you're going through to make sure that this is a legitimate method by which you're going to do these things, any deviation from this should be picked up when you're going through your processes. If you're like, well, okay, I saw OpenSCM, it called the API, it did this. I see this all in my logs, but then, oh wait, it's making another call over here into this side, and after it calls RPC, it also does XYZ, and it's like, that's not in our, that's not in our recipe, that's not in the flow chart on how things are supposed to be. So maybe there's something else going on here. So you have to keep, it's an iterative process. Ideally, hopefully, your iterative process doesn't mean, oh, well, it's doing something it absolutely shouldn't do, and that's bad, and now we have an incident response. But, depending, there we go. Document your results, use the model to create a detection strategy. So yeah, the next step is to employ the model to create a detection strategy. Recall that detecting a technique has two tasks, identifying and classifying. We can only classify events we've identified. So if we base a detection on a log source that identifies only 50% of the procedures, the very best we can hope for is to cover 50% of the technique's attack surface, right? So that's where like unified logging comes into play, where you're like, oh, okay, I can see it doing this over here on this server, and then, oh, okay, on this server, it's going to, it's going to make a call to this server over here, and these logs from this server are saying it's doing X, Y, and Z. So you need to detect as many of the procedures as possible, and then you're going to have to kind of fill in the gaps. And once you fill in the gaps, you're going to realize where you're missing things, or hey, why aren't logs coming in from this, or why am I not seeing this traffic from the firewall, or the additional telemetry there. So on this model, there's definitely one spot that offers better identification than the rest. We can create a detection at the create registry key operation. We can identify 100% of the events. So this is more like, where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? You don't want to put, number of different, so many logs. We hear about overlogging all the time. Having smart logs, having logs that make sense to be able to catch everything. We have a way to classify events as malicious with high fidelity, but remember, classification is an environment-specific task. Some environments might have so little noise that any new services are suspicious, while others might see new services all the time. Depends on how dynamic your environment is. If you're constantly adding and removing things, or somebody decides to stand up a Linux server instead of a Windows server this time, you're going to get a completely different mess of logs for that. So this was a good article on detection engineering, which Ms. Berlin is a big fan of. And maybe we'll talk some more about that this weekend as we go through this. I forgot to add this one. Let me add this to our link here. Oh, I already did. I didn't add it to my Visual Studio. Here we go. Does anybody work in detection engineering? Because this kind of works in reverse, right? When you're working from a red team point of view, you're like, okay, when I do this thing, what am I expecting to happen, right? So instead of, when I run this, what am I going to see, or what should I see? So when you run an attack, like IT professional is going to set up some security onion this weekend. Maybe he's going to run some payloads, and he's like, well, I want to be able to see these things happen. As I want to see these events happen when I do X, Y, and Z. Well, okay, if I run this payload, am I seeing these things? Well, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this thing go off here, so that's anomalous behavior. There's a number of ways of going about doing these procedures, and you're going to end up with, you could end up with blind spots. We don't have to get 100% to win. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Why is that? Compound probability. You don't need 100% coverage to win. I hadn't read all of these yet, so let's see. Let's take a trip back to our high school math. Compound probability is the likelihood of two or more separate events happening. For example, the probability of rolling a 1 3 times in a row, the formula for this is P parentheses A and B equals PA times PB. So the probability of both events happening is the probability of the first event times the probability of the second event. Using our example of rolling 3 times in a row, 1/6 times 1/6 times 1/6 is 1 to 216. So that's quite improbable. So it's intuitive that as we add more events to the calculation, the likelihood of them all happening decreases rapidly. If we get 4 ones in a row, it's 1 out of 1,296. Compound probability and threat detection. Every time an attacker takes an action in your enterprise's environment, they're rolling the dice. They have an objective for each action, something they want to accomplish, persistence, lateral movement, privilege escalation, etc. They have a finite number of techniques to choose from to accomplish that technique. When they pick a specific technique, they're taking a gamble. You don't have any detections in place to alert you to the action they're taking. Right. That makes sense, right? When when somebody's going to run something like it's your red team or it's a bad person, if you don't have any logs, they're not going to you're not going to see them, right? They're going to sneak in, they're going to do whatever it is they need to do, and they're going to get out. Or in some cases, they're going to get in, create persistence, and then get out for some length of time in case something accidentally lights off. So if you pick where you're going to put those things, each attack technique they execute is a roll of the dice. Probability of their success is determined by the percentage of techniques that you have covered for a given tactic. So you don't have to, and I get their point. So if it, like the Tomcat thing, when we were talking about that earlier, where is that Tomcat thing? Let's say bad guys trying to run some bad shit on your Tomcat server. You have 5 things that need to occur on your network or not occur on your network before they can do whatever it is they need to do. If you don't have one of these things, it's not going to work. So in this case, if any of these 5 items are not running by default or are enabled by default, you're going to have trouble. So in the inverse of that is, if you don't have a certain configuration in your environment, if you don't have logging that can detect those things, if you're running a certain patch level, those things are going to pop up. So I'm kind of glad we were able to go, full circle here. So your tactics were, at 15% coverage, your odds are 44%. So this is where that, when somebody says, bad guys only have to be right once, the blue team has to be right every time. Well, in this case, no, they don't. If you have even some part of coverage in your environment, the ability, and because this person has done some maths, all the maths, depending on which parts of the MITRE matrix that you can detect for, you can almost definitively say, if you have even 50% coverage, they only have a 3% chance of being not detected. And that would be, you've got nobody looking at the keyboard and that they're able to waltz right in. If you've even got somebody looking at something in your environment, you have a chance of finding them. Or if you even have proper alerting in certain places, you're going to be detected, or they're going to detect something. They're going to say, I don't understand what's going on there. Now, that's where I think the quality comes in. It's like, if it's the same, I used to work at a place where the SOC people, bless them, because they had not an easy job to do, but they had a whole board full of alerts that would keep popping up. And it was a lovely mosaic. It's like 4 different columns on 2 different computer, like TV screens, like 60, 70 inch screens with like 15 different alerts in each column. So it was like, they knew that if it was green, green, yellow, green, green, yellow, yellow, green, it was fine. But if it went like, if even one of those greens turned yellow or one of those yellows turned red, they knew something was up. And then they had another screen that had red, red, yellow, yellow, red, 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 flashing red, green, something random like that. And I was like, well, when I first got there, I was like, well, this one's flashing red. And they're like, oh yeah, it always flashes red. And I'm like, but there's a problem. And they're like, no, it's a false positive. And, I gave up because I at the time I probably shouldn't have, but it was like, was it worth their time to fix that flashing red issue, even though they knew it wasn't a real issue? They knew that it was flashing red. They knew it was always the same error message, which is a detection in itself. If that was a different flashing red detection, then they could action upon it. So I love this. I love this. The math here. I didn't have a chance to get through and read the math on all that. But let me see what they got here. So this is great. So this is a great series of articles. I'm actually starting to find a lot more good content on Medium, if only because there's people who are out of work that are trying to build up a body of knowledge, especially in the detection of the blue team world. So Van Vliet, if you are interested in following Van Vliet, you can check out the link that I put in our show notes and in our chat here about that on threat detection. So, and everybody kind of does it. I don't want to say everybody does it differently, but there's a methodology or there's a method to your madness that will work for you. Whether you decide to go with somebody like Blue Mara and Miss Berlin and talk to them about what they do there, and they have their own secret sauce and their own detections and things that they do that, or you've worked on a massive blue team for some organization and you create your own threat detections. Maybe you have a threat detection team in that case. But yeah, so yeah. I don't know what jogged my memory on that bit there with that. Oh man, that takes me back a bit to old timey days. Man, my yearly evaluation comes up tomorrow, which is going to be interesting. I want to say cautiously optimistic, but I find myself concerned about the direction things go with organizations, all organizations, not just the one I work for. There is a shift with all the AI stuff, and whether you are affected or not, there are a lot of companies out there that want AI to succeed, because it is a force multiplier. And there are a lot of organizations out there that think, and actually I saw that, there was an article from, what's that guy, Meta guy, AI writing all the code. Yeah, so Mr. Data believes that, yeah, so 20 and 20, oh, wait. So Mr. Data believes that in 2025, AI systems at Meta and other companies will be capable of writing code like mid-level engineers. At first, it's costly, but the systems will become more efficient as time passes. I have no doubt of that. Eventually, AI engineers will build most of the code in AI and apps, replacing human engineers. No, you're not coming in. And it's like that, the stories you see where, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where the new version with Johnny Depp is Willy Wonka, where the dad was putting the toothpaste cap on top of the toothpaste, and then they got a machine that put the toothpaste cap on top of the toothpaste, and Charlie's father found himself without work. And of course, at the end, it's like, oh, somebody's got to fix the machine, right? And for years, security people were threatened with the idea that, AI is going to replace all the security people. But we have found that it would be nice. I see that as more of they're going to be an assistant. They're going to do all of the crap work that we don't like to do. Writing the report, for instance. I don't know about you, but if you work in a consultancy or you work in a place that writes a lot of reports, that is work that you wish you didn't have to do. And unfortunately, if you work for a consultancy, that's really all the companies are paying you for. They're paying you for the findings. They want the findings in a nice 50-page report that they're never going to look at again, and they probably will never fix, sadly. I'm not saying that, AI is going to, help you with that, but, help you with the fixing of that problem. But you want to be able to write more effectively, more efficiently, be more verbose, but still be able to spend 3 or 4 days extra, maybe doing the hacking on the computers or finding the vulnerabilities instead of spending 3 or 4 days writing the report that you could do. It's one of the things that when I was a project manager for the consultancies, it was like at some point I had to tell them, we've got 2 days left. You need to write the report. They're like, oh, I'm right there. I got like another 15, 20 minutes I can get it. I was like, you got to stop. Right? I know you're on something. I appreciate that. You can log that in your report, and if they come back to us next year, you can do that. The idea would be if we have an AI that's generating the report for us, or better yet, we're just copying the findings into a Jira that the product teams can immediately start playing with. You will have more time to test, and you won't necessarily have to spend all that time writing a document. So I don't agree with Zuck. I mean, he wants that to happen because, he's hoping to have people replaced by AI, but there's still going to be people who are going to need to monitor the machine, if you will. And so
level engineer that you have.
He's got, I don't know if he's got a really good poker face or if he just has no emotion whatsoever. They can't moderate the story of big tech companies: if you hire talented people, compensate and treat them well, they'll develop great products that make a lot of money. It's an interesting quandary, right? There's going to be less people doing work, and there's going to be more AI helping out and assisting, but there's still going to be a need for people. It's just our skill set's going to be different. And unfortunately right now we're trying to figure that out in the hiring phase of things, going back to the scams and stuff. All of this is kind of cyclical, weird. You're going to have companies that are going to lay people off. We swung so far during the pandemic to we need to hire a bunch of people because and then now we're cooling off and we're contracting again. The problem is now we're hiring and there are people don't necessarily know how to hire. And I don't know what that looks like, but I think networking is going to be more important than ever. At least from a human point of view. I cannot stress enough for people that are without jobs to think before they apply to a job, find out if it's a legitimate position. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn and go, look, I want to make sure this is a legit job. They're starting to mention on LinkedIn now about, this is the hiring manager for this job, right? So if there's jobs out there, say, here's GoFundMe, right? So people you can reach out to. If you have had more than one job in your time, you can say, here's people who have worked there, or here's the senior technical recruiter for this. So you can reach out to this recruiter and go, hey, are you really hiring for this job, or is this just a ghost job? This is a time where maybe LinkedIn Premium would be good if you can reach out to that recruiter and say, hey, blink. There we go. Reach out to Sushma and go, or Sushma, and say, hey, is this a job? Is this a legitimate position? Are you hiring for this? I would like to believe that they're not lying to you if they tell you it's a legitimate job. Or, hey, maybe we haven't had a chance to update it yet, so please don't respond to this one. But I mean, there you go. GoFundMe's hiring. So, and that's not bad. That's not a bad range for a senior technical program manager for security. 5 years of technical program experience, track record of driving large-scale security initiatives. I think some of these are going to be how you interpret these items and how you can show those things. Strong experience in roadmap development. This is going to be more of a strategic position, obviously, strategic planning, execution management, familiarity with frameworks, NIST, SIS, SOC 2. Ideally, what you want to do is show that you had technical program management experience. This one's not awful. This one could be really freaking worse. I mean, seriously. They don't ask you to have a CISP, right? They don't ask you to have 35 years of experience in something. I mean, these are great. This could have been much worse in terms of, of that. And so, pay, they have equity and benefits. It's a remote position. That's the other thing you really have to ask. Is it a remote position or is it an in-person position? There's no hybrid anymore. If it's hybrid, it's in person because you have to be in the office somewhere. Don't ever ask them, if it's a hybrid position, ask them, how many days a week do I need to be in the office? And you're going to have to be in that area or in somewhere geographically to that. If they're remote, they're remote, but yeah, there are positions available. It's just, depending on what your connections look like, if you want to go work at Ernst & Young, there you go. They're in the San Diego area. I've got some people, I guess, work there that I know. Qualcomm, Waymo, that's a remote position. I think more of the startups are going to be remote, like strictly remote, because they don't have billions of dollars of real estate they're sitting on, which I think is what's pushing a lot of these bigger fangs into the office. They have $1 billion worth of, building in downtown San Francisco, Seattle, Mountain View. What's that big UFO one that Apple has? They count that as part of their assets for their business, and I would have shown people that, but yeah, I mean, they count that as part of their assets, and if you don't have that in your assets, then you value your company in a different way than a bunch of buildings that are sitting in San Diego or Seattle or New York or San Francisco. So, but there are jobs out there. I mean, they are hiring. Like I said, Atlassian's hiring. Axos Bank, $200 to $220K for a senior manager of cybersecurity. 100%, but they're 100% on site, and you must be either in San Diego, California, Irvine, Vegas, Centennial, Colorado, Overland Park, Kansas, Omaha, that's where a lot of financial firms live, or Edison, New Jersey. So yeah, 5 days a week in one of those places. And they're being upfront about that. It's a senior manager of cybersecurity. That's cool. And like I said, reach out to the talent acquisition folks and say, are you really hiring for this? What are you looking for? Am I a good fit? Be proactive and don't just wait for them to come to you. So I know. No, I'll come out later. That's my cat. She's very upset with me right now. So anyway, thank you all for watching me. Thanks to AxRoot for being new and joining the group here. I would say join our Discord. You can, if you'd like. I would suggest, let me see. Education Discord. I'll need to change up some things because the vanity URL that we have is not going to work after tomorrow. So I'll have to go and make some changes to our stuff. But yeah, hope everyone has a good day, and thank you for listening on the audio podcast. Let's go find somebody to stream and follow here. MakerDeck. Sure, why not? Let's go watch some robots make things. All right, I'm going to go. I'll be back later this week, hopefully. And hope you have a good rest of your day and rest of your week. And we will talk very soon. Okay? Y'all have a good day now. Bye.